Hello YouTube and welcome back to another Dare to Game video. Today we're playing Mount and Blade Bannerlord and we're doing the ultimate Crossbowman build guide. And now we've already done archers and mounted archers, and now we're going to do either everybody or nobody's favorite type of ranged unit, the Crossbowman. I couldn't possibly say because I am neither everybody nor nobody. So with all that in mind, we're going to go through just a whole bunch of stuff and I'll show you exactly what skills to use, what equipment to use, what troops to use, blah 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 blah. All that sort of stuff to have the ultimate Crossbowman experience in Bannerlord. But before we get into the details of that, just quickly I want to say, these videos take a remarkable amount of work and a long time to figure out. So, if you could, I'd really appreciate it if you would subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And short of that, a like on the video and a comment would definitely be appreciated. But with all that in mind, let's dive on in and I'll show you how to create the character at the beginning. So we're going to start with Sandbox. Alright, now really you could do all sorts of stuff. It doesn't make a huge difference at this point for culture, but the two that I find the most applicable are going to be the Empire, because they like to use crossbowmen, or Vlandia, and since I just happen to like Vlandia better, and you get the boosts of your extra renown from battles, and more income while serving as a mercenary, I'm going to stick with Vlandia. So that's going to be the culture I pick. So starting us off, you were born into a family of hunters. That's going to be what we want to go with. So we get 10 skill levels and 1 focus point to scouting and crossbow, and 1 attribute point to control. So you can see we're starting off right off the bat with a point in crossbow and a point in control, so that's going to help us level up right there. And we also get a point for scouting, which is nice. As a child, you were noted for your attention to detail. Now this one unfortunately doesn't give us a point for crossbow, it gives it for bow instead, but it does give us a control point, which is great, and an endurance point, which are both important. Or not endurance, but athletics. So we get 10 skill levels and 1 focus point to athletics and bow, and 1 attribute point to control. So that's our best option at this level. Living, or like all the village children, you helped out in the fields. You also hunted small game is again what we're going to want to go with. And now unfortunately again here, instead of getting 1 for crossbow, we get it for bow, which sucks, but we do get 1 for control, so that's important. And of course also cunning. So 10 skill levels and 1 focus point to bow and tactics, 1 attribute point to control. As a youngster growing up in Calradia, war was never too far away. You stood guard with the garrisons is the one that we're going to want to go with. So this one gives us 10 skill levels and 1 focus point to crossbow and engineering, and 1 attribute point to intelligence. So this one gives us an engineering and intelligence boost, which isn't really super specific to the build, but it's also not bad. But we also get another point for crossbow, which is excellent. Before you set out on your life for your life of adventure, your biggest achievement was you hunted a dangerous animal. So this gives us 10 skill levels and 1 focus point to polearm and crossbow, so we get that for crossbow, and an extra attribute point to control, +1 to valor and +5 to renown. So polearm is not exactly what we want to go for here. You could if you want, like it's totally up to you which melee weapon you want to utilize outside of your crossbow. Personally, I prefer one-handed weapons with crossbow over polearms, but it's entirely up to you. But we do get that extra point for control, which is great, and another point for crossbow. So that is the best way to do that. And then of course I like to start all of these builds at age 30, so you're a full-grown man and you start with 4 unspent focus points and 2 unspent attribute points. And then of course for our difficulty, we're going to start up at Bannerlord difficulty and start the game. And so if you do all of that exactly as I showed you there, you will start out looking just like this. So we'll have 2 attribute points we can use and 4 focus points we can use. We're going to start off by filling up our crossbow all the way to the top, so we're going to have 5 in crossbow, and then we'll put the other 2 into one-handed, because like I said, that's the area that I like to focus on. And then for our 2 points here, since we've already got 6 in control, which is a good way to start, we'll put the other 2 into vigor. So those will help us level up our one-handed. So now for our skill spread, you can see we've got 4 for vigor, 6 for control, 2 for endurance, 2 for cunning, 2 for social, and 3 for intelligence. Our skill levels are 1 for one-handed, 10 for polearm, 20 for bow, 30 for crossbow, 10 for athletics, 10 for scouting, 10 for tactics, and 10 for engineering. And then for our focus points, we have 1 in polearm, 2 in one-handed, 2 in bow, a full 5 for crossbow, 1 in athletics, 1 in scouting, 1 in tactics, and 1 in engineering. So if you do everything exactly as I showed you, this is how you will start the game. And now with that in mind, let's jump to a save I have where I was playing much later in the game. And so you can see much further into the game, we've got a character at level 46, so pretty dang high, and we've got a pretty solid skill distribution all the way around. You can see that we try to utilize any skills we can, so even though we don't focus on two-handed or polearm too much in this playthrough. We've got them as high as we can get them because, you know, we don't want to just leave that XP sitting on the table. But we're going to mostly focus on a few skills. Obviously, one-handed, crossbow, and athletics are going to be important. There's going to be a couple other ones that are important as well, but, you know, we'll just go through them. So, starting us off with the most important, we have the crossbow skills. And just to quickly go through these, we're going to want to start off with the marksman skill, which says aiming with your crossbow is 25% faster, and it increases the morale of ranged troops at the start of the battle by 10%. For our next one, we want the windwinder skill, which reduces your crossbow reload time by 25%, and ranged troops' crossbow reload speed is increased by 5%, so it just makes it faster. Then, of course, at level 75, we have donkey's swiftness, which decreases your crossbow accuracy loss due to movement by 30. That one's nice if you're not standing perfectly still. And crossbow-equipped troops in your formation have plus 30 crossbow skill, which is great. Then at level 100, we have renowned marksman, which says your ranged troops gain plus 2 XP every day, and ranged troops in governed settlements garrison provide 30% more security. So you get a lot more security out of ranged troops in your governed garrisons. At level 125, we have Fletcher, which increases the stack size for quivers by plus 4. This one's important because crossbows automatically start with a lot less ammo than bow and arrow archers do. So having those extra bolts makes you personally as a crossbowman and any crossbow troops that you're leading quite a bit more effective, and all of your troops get plus 2 extra bolts in their quiver. At level 150, we have loose and move, which says equipped crossbows do not slow you down. That one's nice because traveling with a crossbow in your hands is a slow process without this one. And it says ranged troops under your command have their movement speed increased by 5%, so your troops can also move quite a bit faster with this one. For the next one, you have a choice between two. Counterfire says when you have a crossbow equipped, you take 10% less damage from projectiles, and it also makes your crossbow-equipped troops take less damage. That one's probably more useful on the whole, but the other option is mounted crossbowman, which allows you to reload any crossbow on horseback. The reason I went with mounted crossbowman on here is because I do use a horse sometimes, even when I'm a crossbowman. And if you do that, you can't use any of the high tier crossbows because you can't reload them on horseback. So if you do mounted crossbowman, you can. So this one definitely comes down to roleplay. How into the roleplay are you? If you're full blown into it, then you don't want to be riding on a horse anyway, and it makes more sense to go with counterfire. But if you're going to be riding a horse, then this one allows you to use the good crossbows. Next up at level 200, we have steady, and it says the accuracy penalty while shooting crossbows from horseback is halved. So this one's another one that it depends on how deep your roleplay is. If you're going to be shooting your crossbow from horseback, which would not have been common in history, this one definitely helps you because it removes your a lot of the accuracy penalty you would have. Otherwise, the sniper one allows you to zoom in 100% more with crossbows, so that one is huge. So if you're going heavy into roleplay for these two skills, you want to do the top ones here. You want to do counterfire and sniper. If you're going to be using a horse with your crossbow, like I did in this playthrough, mounted crossbowman and steady are essential. But then for level 225, you want to do hammer bolts. So it says crossbow hits can now dismount and ignore 50% dismount resistance. So this one's nice because it allows you to take enemy troops clean off of their horse, which is awesome. And it allows that, it says crossbow equipped troops in your formation gain 10% damage with crossbows, so it gives them an extra damage boost, which is excellent. And finally at level 250 we have picked shots, which says upkeep of tier 4 plus ranged troops are reduced by 50%, and your ranged troops have plus 5 hit points. So this makes the upkeep for your troops much lower, and it makes your ranged troops have more hit points. So both of those are excellent for leading a crossbow-centric army. Our final skill is not a choice, it's called Mighty Pull. It says each skill point above 200 grants you 0.2% speed increase with crossbows, and each skill point above 200 grants you 0.5% damage increase with crossbows. So maxed out at level 330, we have a significant speed boost and damage boost with our crossbow. So that is it for all of the crossbow skills you want to focus on. Then for one-handed skills to focus on, the first one we want to do is deflect, just because it increases the weapon handling for one-handed weapons, which is excellent. Then I want to do to be blunt, because I'm using a mace. If you're using a sword, then swift strike would be better, but I like using maces and axes, and so to be blunt is the better skill there. Then we want shield bearer, which reduces the effect of wielding a shield on your combat movement speed. This is important because I like using the Pavis shield as a crossbowman, and that shield is quite large and heavy, so this makes it not so negative in those regards. Then we want the trainer perk, which increases your hit points and gives melee troops 5% more experience after every battle. So if you're using any infantry or anything like that, that one's useful, but mostly I just like it for the extra hit points. Then we want to do Arrow Catcher because it gives you a larger shield protection area against projectiles, so helps you stay safe against all those Fians out there. Then we want Military Tradition, which gives infantry troops plus 2 XP daily, and garrison wages in the governed settlements are reduced by 5%, so another one that makes it cheaper to keep nice big garrisons in your settlements. Then we have Lead by Example, so that says troops in your party gain 5% more experience after each battle. Troops in your party start with plus 5 battle morale, so this one gives you more experience and more battle morale, so that's very useful. Fleet of Foot increases your combat movement speed by 5%, so you can move quite a bit faster, which is important. And infantry troops in the formation you're leading have their movement speed increased by 4%. Then we have Deadly Purpose at level 225, increases damage with one-handed weapons by 5%, very important considering we're using a one-handed weapon. And infantry troops in the formation you're leading have their melee weapon damage increased by 10%, so also makes your infantry troops more effective. Finally, at level 250 we have Prestige, which says you deal 50% more damage with one-handed weapons against shields, and this one increases your party limit by plus 15. So it gives you a nice big boost to how many troops you can have in your party, and makes it more makes your one-handed weapons more effective against shields. So those are all of the points to focus on as a crossbowman, all of the important standout points there. Outside of that, obviously it's nice to have high points in scouting tactics and leadership because it allows you to lead larger, more effective armies. Athletics is obviously going to be real important just because you want to be very mobile, and so if you're being a crossbowman, you can see the ones I've got here. It's the top skill for the first 4, bottom for the next 3, top, bottom, top, middle. So that's the way that I like it for a crossbowman. And then obviously things like trade and smithing allow you to level up because you get lots of XP from doing them, and also you can make a lot of money that way. So lots of things to look at in regard to skills here, but the most important ones, like I said, are your one-handed and crossbow. The best crossbows in the game, I have the best one here, which is the bound crossbow, but if you can't get your hands on the bound crossbow, the next best ones are the hickory crossbow and the arbalest. All 3 of those cannot be reloaded by default on horseback, so you won't be able to be a mounted crossbowman using those ones unless you have the perk that allows you to be, but they are ridiculously good weapons, super accurate, they deal high damage, they have really long range, they're really good weapons. As far as your bolts, there are a number of bolts that are fine, but the best ones you can get are the heavy bolts because they give you that 5 pierce damage. Unfortunately, they only stack up to 18, so that's the downside of being a crossbowman, is you have so much less ammo. So you could, instead of using the Pavis shield and the Bone Crusher, you could swap out, maybe take the shield off and then you just don't have a shield covering you, but you have an extra stack of arrows. Or you could be a pure crossbowman, which I wouldn't do because it's dangerous and almost certainly you're going to get into range where you're going to want a melee weapon at some point. But if you want to play that game, you could have just the bound crossbow and 3 stacks of heavy bolts. That's up to you. Outside of that, I like having some nice heavy armor, and I went with Vlandian themed armor here. And I think it looks really nice, and it really presents a well-balanced and well-armored crossbowman. So that's it for equipment. Like I said, you want to have as good of a crossbow as possible, and it's good if you can have more than 1 quiver of bolts because they just don't stack that high. As far as troops you want to use, the best crossbowmen in the game, at least in my opinion, overall are going to be the Vlandian sharpshooters. They're the top of the Vlandian crossbowman tree. That comes from their regular recruits. The reason I like them the best is they've got nice heavy armor, they've got real good stats, they've got solid weapons, they have the bound crossbow, which is the best crossbow in the game, they come with the Pavis shield, which is one of the best shields in the game. They have a decently high one-handed skill and a good one-handed sword with nice reach, and again, pretty solid armor on the whole. So there's a lot of reasons I like the Vlandian sharpshooter the best, but if you don't want to use the Vlandian sharpshooter, you could use the elite hired crossbow, which is a mercenary unit that you can recruit from taverns all around the map, or you could use the Imperial Sergeant crossbowman, which is the top of the crossbow troops for the Empire. So they're going to be pretty similar to the Vlandians. They have slightly better armor than the Vlandian sharpshooter, but their crossbow is significantly worse because the bound crossbow is the absolute best crossbow in the game. So it depends which way you want to go, but I prefer the Vlandian sharpshooter. As a crossbowman, you're very effective defending castles, you're decently effective attacking castles, and if you have enough crossbowmen on the field and your tactics are good enough, you can be super effective in the field. The important thing to remember, though, is you do have very limited ammo, and so do all of your troops. But with all that in mind, that's all today for our Crossbowman guide for Mount & Blade Bannerlord. I hope you enjoyed the video and found it useful if you want to be a Crossbowman in the game. But with all that in mind, thanks for watching and have a nice day, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks for watching another Dare to Game video. If you like this video, please leave a like and a comment. If you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to the channel. If you like my content and would like to support this channel, consider becoming a member today for as little as $1.99 a month. It makes a huge difference. But in any case, thanks for watching and have a nice day. I'll see you next time.